Good evening, Commissioners. We'll begin tonight's meeting, and I'd like to say good evening and welcome to all of the members of the public that have shown up. Commissioners, I believe that the town council meeting, the town commission meeting is the foundation for democracy in our country. It all starts here, where the public can come and bring anything they wish before us and be here to see us carry out the business of the city. So it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening, as it is each time we're together. We'll begin this evening with a word of prayer, and then we will go into honoring our flags. Our Father in heaven.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening to City Management and Administration and Department heads that are here with us this evening, and good evening to members of the public. We'll begin our meeting. I will offer a prayer, and then we will honor our flags, if you would.
Awesome. Oh, we got it figured out. Okay, we will pray, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings that you give us. Lord, thank you so much for the wonderful community that we're all fortunate enough to live in and work in and serve in, and we just pray for great things for our community. Lord, guide us as we do the city's business this evening. And Lord, we thank you for the privilege of doing that. Help us to be good stewards, and we'll give you the credit. I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in honoring our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. The meeting is called to order. Will the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Madrid?
Here.
Commissioner Casals?
Here.
Commissioner Elliott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant?
Here.
Commissioner Garza?
Here.
Commissioner Rowley?
Here.
Commissioner Paula? Here. Mayor Morris?
Here. Thank you, Ms. Knight. Next, Commissioners, we have approval of the agenda. You've had the opportunity to review the agenda. Unless you recommend rearranging or removing any of the items, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Madrid, and the second came from Commissioner Garza. Commissioners, please vote. Commissioner Paula, may I have your vote, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can't vote.
Ms. Knight, could I have you do a roll call for this vote, please?
Commissioner Madrid?
Yes.
Commissioner Casals?
Yes.
Commissioner Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Paula? Yes. Mayor Morris? Oh, sorry, no.
That's all right. Thank you, Ms. Knight. Hopefully we have the voting system working for the next item. The vote was unanimous. The motion is carried and the agenda is approved. Next is approval of minutes. We have the minutes from the September 23rd, 2021 meeting in your packet. I hope you've had a chance to review those. Are there changes or corrections?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem Bryant.
I'll second that.
Second from Commissioner Garza. Commissioners, please vote. And it is approved. Next is approval of minutes. We have the minutes from the September 23rd, 2021 meeting in your packet. I hope you Ms. Knight, could we have a roll call on the approval of the minutes, please?
Commissioner Casals?
Yes.
Commissioner Elliott?
Abstain.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Paula? Yes. Commissioner Madrid?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is carried and the minutes have been approved. Would it be helpful to pause for a moment or two for IT to work the kinks out?
He says we're good.
Says we're good. All right. Well, let's keep moving here then. Next on the agenda is recognition of visitors. As I said before, it's wonderful to see you all here this evening. Thank you for your interest in tonight's meeting, and we look forward to hearing from each of you that are here to share on the item that you're here for tonight. We will move on to proclamations, awards, and presentations, and we have a handful of presentations planned this evening. The first is presentation of proclamation proclaiming October 3rd through 9th as Mental Illness Awareness Week. And here to receive this proclamation and I think to share something about this is Mr. Justin Nutt. Yes, please come forward. Welcome, Mr. Nutt. Thanks for being here. We have a proclamation that we'd like to share. I understand that you have a 5K that's taking place in this week's.
Yes. Yes, Mayor. It will start at 9, registration on Saturday, the 9th, and then the race itself, the walk or run, whichever you choose, starts at 10 a.m., and that's located at our Sutter Place office.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. I'll share the proclamation, and then I'd like to present it to you once I've shared it. Whereas mental health is essential to our overall health, and the importance of attending to mental health has become even more pronounced during the COVID-19 pandemic, which has not only negatively impacted people's mental health, but has also created barriers to treatment. And whereas millions of adults and children across America experience mental health conditions, including anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder, nearly 1 in 5 Americans live with a mental health condition. Those living with mental health conditions are our family, our friends, our classmates, neighbors, and coworkers. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting economic crisis has impacted the mental health of millions of Americans, isolation, sickness, grief, job loss, food instability, and loss of routines has increased the need for mental health services. At the same time, the need to protect people from COVID-19 has made it more of a challenge for people to access mental health services and harder for providers to deliver this care. And whereas even before COVID-19, the prevalence of mental health conditions in our nation was on the rise. In 2019, nearly 52 million adults experienced some form of mental illness. Recent data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention indicates that 1 in 4 adults reported experiencing symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder in February of 2021, a significant increase from the prior year. Youth mental health is also worsening, with nearly 10% of America's youth reporting severe depression. We must treat this public health crisis, we must treat this as the public health crisis that it is, and reverse this trend. And whereas too many people with mental health needs feel they have nowhere to turn, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the 2nd leading cause of our nation's youth today. Even as we build and enhance existing systems for prevention and response within communities, immediate assistance is available for those in need by calling local mental health crisis line at 1-800-432-2159 or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-662-HELP. Now, therefore, I, Mike Morris, Mayor of the City of Clovis, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby recognize October 3rd through 9th, 2021 as Mental Illness Awareness Week in the City of Clovis, and I call upon citizens, government agencies, organizations, healthcare providers, and research institutions to raise mental health awareness and continue helping Americans live longer, healthier lives. Commissioners, next, we have a presentation and proclamation proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we originally had Mr. Jamie Watson here to receive that proclamation, but I understand Mr. Nutt will be receiving this proclamation as well. Did you have, or perhaps Ms. Burrows, you serve on Hartley House. Does anyone have something to share about Hartley House and domestic violence awareness before I read the proclamation?
Well, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, I think we have Mrs. Jeannie Masters with Mr. Nutt this evening.
Oh, great.
As well, she's also on the Board of Directors for the Hartley House, and I think they wanted to share some information about the Festival of Trees as well,
Yes, please do.
if that's okay.
Good evening. So on November 13th, we are doing the Festival of Trees. It's our 8th annual one. We missed COVID for 2020 for COVID, but we're doing our Festival of Trees for supporting the Hartley House that services 4 counties over here, so for victims of domestic violence. So we are looking for donors for trees and wreaths, and we will auction them off and have a nice night.
Appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry, where is that happening? Where?
So it's on November 13th, we are at the
Today's end.
the Days Inn.
Okay,
So on Mabry.
On
And the
Mabry.
tickets are on sale.
wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Glad to hear that you're having the Festival of Trees. That's always a fun event and obviously raises money for a good cause. So thanks for putting it on, and thanks for being here this evening. I'll share the proclamation. Whereas the Clovis City Commission recognizes the importance of health among the residents within our community, and whereas the health of our community has an important impact on the well-being of our community, and whereas domestic violence is an epidemic affecting individuals in every community, regardless of age, economic status, sexual orientation, race, religion, or nationality, and whereas Hartley House, in cooperation with the City of Clovis Police Department, Curry County Sheriff's Department, Curry County Health Council, 9th Judicial District Attorney's Office, and numerous other community groups and organizations are working together to lower the incidence of domestic violence in Curry County. And whereas Hartley House will be holding their annual It's Your Time to Shine Festival of Trees fundraiser on November 13th at Days Inn and Suites. Now therefore, I, Mike Morris, Mayor of Clovis, and on behalf of the City Commission, proclaim the month of October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and invite all citizens of Clovis and the surrounding area to participate in promoting Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And join me in eliminating domestic violence offenses within Clovis and the Curry County community. Commissioners, next we have a proclamation proclaiming October 2021 as Manufacturing Month. And is Mr. Malloy going to share with us and receive the proclamation? Mr. Lee Malloy, is there any cost? Thank you so much for being here. We're happy to issue this proclamation this evening, and we'd love to hear anything you have to share.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. So Lee Malloy's here as the President of the Board for Clovis Industrial Development Corporation. And so over the years, we have celebrated Manufacturing Day in October. Or I think it's a month this time. It's a whole month. And so CIDC belongs to the Manufacturing Extension Program, MEP. And so typically every year we are happy to receive the resolution recognizing manufacturers not only in Clovis but also the state of New Mexico. And so it just sheds a spotlight to how our youth can get careers in manufacturing as well. And so anyway, I'll let Lee say something too.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you on behalf of the highly visitable manufacturers in our area like Southwest Cheese to the very obscure manufacturers in Clovis like Home Treat Company. We appreciate the recognition. The manufacturers in this area contribute a lot to this community. Most are unsung heroes, and we appreciate the spotlight that you've allowed to be placed on that.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for everything you do at CIDC and for bringing this to our attention and allowing us to do this evening. I'll share the proclamation. Whereas Manufacturing Month is an opportunity for manufacturers to highlight their work and their workers and to energize a future pipeline of skilled workers. And whereas Manufacturing Month is an opportunity for manufacturers to open their doors to showcase the potential of modern manufacturing and foster interest in manufacturing careers. And whereas Manufacturing Month empowers manufacturers to come together to address their collective challenges so they can help their communities and future generations thrive. And whereas the New Mexico Manufacturing Extension Partnership is sponsoring Manufacturing Month activities throughout the month of October. During the month, companies will host tours to highlight their work, the work of their businesses, including commercial woodworking and lighting factories, winemakers, and medical device manufacturers. Now, therefore, I, Mike Morris, Mayor of Clovis, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Manufacturing Month in the City of Clovis, and I invite area residents to learn more about our area manufacturers. Manufacturers, however highly visible or obscure, as you said. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all. All right, commissioners. I think that concludes presentations. So we will move on in the agenda to receipts of petitions and communications. And we have the pleasure this evening, the honor of having Representative Crowder here to visit with us during this section of the agenda. Representative Crowder.
Thank you, Mayor Morris, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. I appreciate you letting us have a little bit of your time tonight. I want to tell you a little bit about what brought us here. Is about first part of August, I received an email from one of our constituents, ours, both of us. And in his email, he said that he's paying $40,000 a year for flood insurance on his property. And it's on 6084, the main highway running through town. And in a conversation with Mayor Paula, or Commissioner Paula, excuse me, I didn't mean to downgrade her, or upgrade her.
Is that prophetic?
I was chatting with her one evening or afternoon in her office and found out that we're not ever going to be able to clean up and beautify our city on Mabry Drive if we can't get it out of a flood zone. Investors are not going to build new motels in a flood zone. People are not going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to upgrade their properties in a flood zone. And so as we begin to talk about that, I think we both had a strong desire to see if there was something we could do. And I began to talk to the New Mexico Department of Transportation about 6084 and the drainage components of the new project they're about to do here. And are we going to get some of the properties, especially on the west side of the town, are we going to get some of those properties further out of the flood zone than what we have? I know you just passed a new FEMA flood map, or I don't know that it's filed yet, but it should be filed soon. And it reduced our floodplain considerably. But I think it would be really good if we could reduce it even more. And I think that would give us an opportunity, if we can get some of Mabry Drive, all of Mabry Drive out of the floodplain, we can entice new development along there, which will beautify our community. And so that's kind of the reason we're here. Also wanted to introduce Francisco Sanchez, the District 2 engineer, to you guys. He is a thrill to work with. He's a very good man. We've been blessed in Curry and Clovis area. You know, they just redid the railroad tracks, and I've heard a lot of people say it's a really smooth transition to go from side to side now, and it's not, kind of hurts Gary Elliott's business, but it's a good transition for the rest of us. So, but, and they're paving, I don't know if you've been to Fort Sumner lately, but from Melrose Bombing Range back to about 6 miles this side of Melrose. They're redoing that highway. It's in really good shape. We had the Cabinet Secretary, Michael Sandoval, was here. I think in April or May last year, we had him in town. Met with Justin Howalt. Justin was able to take him around the whole community, and a result of those activities is we received funding for 7th Street, $5.9 million, I believe, for to go from there onto Main and complete the drainage and the roadway, and so we're getting the railroad tracks. We're getting funding for 7th Street. We're going to get some money for Mayberry Drive. We're getting the road done from here to Fort Sumner, and the Secretary and the District 2 engineer have been fabulous to work with, and I'm proud to get to work with them. And I wanted you to meet him, and I wanted him to give you an update of all the road activity around the city. And then when he gets through, I'm going to share one more thing that I think is very exciting that I received in Transportation Committee Monday that I didn't even know was going on. But I'll share it with you, and it's very encouraging and exciting for our community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Francisco Sanchez, the District 2 engineer for New Mexico Department of Transportation.
Appreciate that. Representative Crowder. Welcome, Mr. Sanchez.
Appreciate the invite, Mayor, Commissioners. As Representative said, I am the new District 2 engineer. I've had a long-standing relationship. I grew up in this area, so I'm well familiar with Southeast New Mexico. Had the pleasure of working with the Department of Transportation for the last 8 years. Previously, I was with the City of Roswell, so I can understand the challenges that go on in municipalities like yourselves. And so, Representative, he kind of stole my thunder and kind of announcing all those projects. So, but he's been great to work with. He's been a partner there at the legislature. He's had actually a huge part in bringing and actually speeding up the upcoming downtown US 60 project. Overall, that's going to be a $43 million investment. Of course, the major component is the drainage. It's a pretty complicated drainage system to account for all the water that's hitting US 60. Of course, the road will be totally reconstructed, where the traffic signals will be upgraded, and of course, new sidewalk and all the ADA facilities needed to make a really nice corridor, multimodal corridor for multiple uses. So that's the major project in this area, especially here in Clovis. Regionally, there are others, especially on the US 60 corridor. The one closest to your town, of course, that is a safety concern, and will be coming out in the next year, is the intersection of 476 and US 60. That's the one just north of here. We'll be putting a traffic signal. I was actually out there this afternoon looking at some other stuff, but it is pretty difficult to cross that road there at peak hours. So I think that's going to be a worthwhile project to get that signal out there. Just some information on when these projects will be constructed. We're looking for October 2022 to actually go out for bidding, or what we call letting, for the US Downtown Clovis project. And of course, the limits are from the main intersection there, US 70 and 60 Prince, all the way to Martin Luther King. And the part of that project was all the way to Wheaton, and we addressed that a couple years ago with the pavement project that was out here. Overall, regionally, we also have a couple of bridge projects here, one over at Canyon Air Force Base, doing some maintenance. And our long-term range plan, which hopefully is not too long range, is we're really looking at the US 60 corridor from Clovis all the way to Fort Sumner. You've seen it, we've seen it. Traffic's increasing on that road, especially freight. So we have recently gone out for RFP to get a study, what we call a phase A-B study or alignment location study. Could kind of look at all the conditions that are going out there, see if looking at pavement deficiencies, looking at traffic, safety issues, seeing where we can make improvements, seeing what we would like to see that corridor in the future, whether it's a two-lane enhancement, more a super two like what you see in Texas, alternating passing lanes, or even potentially a 4-lane. But that will be determined once we do the study and see what kind of traffic and what kind of future holds for that corridor. So like I said, I just wanted to introduce myself. Didn't put a formal presentation, but a lot of times commissioners or specific want to know information about the whole district, how we're spending money district-wide. We are a large district. It is the largest one in the state of New Mexico, 7,700 lane miles, most 4 lanes that is non-interstate. So it's a large area, and it varies tremendously. And so, you know, a lot of times, other areas like to see how the district is spending money. And of course, if you ever need something specific, how we're identifying safety issues along the highways or within municipalities, you know, that's always a good presentation. You know, us as the DOT, traditionally, we have scoped our projects or determined our projects mainly internally, you know, with our engineering staff in-house, you know, our maintenance staff that really knows the roads out here. NMDOT, we're transitioning to more of a data-driven, so we've gone out there and collected our data on pavement, safety, and that's how we're going to start to identify a lot of our projects. So anything that the commission would like to see in the future, you know, I'm more than welcome to present that. But of course, tonight I just wanted to introduce myself, you guys to know me, and of course, you know, I have constant communication with the city through Justin. And like I said, always had a great partnership, but just really wanted to introduce myself to the commission. And if you have any questions, here, please, let's stand for questions.
Well, we're grateful that you've taken the time to visit us this evening, and we're especially grateful for all of the work that you do for our community. And I know that there is a wonderful working relationship between you and the city manager, and love the relationship that's been highlighted between you and our Representative Crowder. So thanks for everything you do, and it's a pleasure. You mentioned, I had a question about where it starts and stops, the 6084. I'm very excited about that corridor being redone. I know we all are.
Right.
But you said it starts at US, or at Highway 70 or Prince and goes to MLK.
Correct.
Yeah. And then the new signal that you said you were looking at, you said that's where?
For that project, we'll be redoing the existing signals.
Oh, okay.
But the new signal would be the New Mexico 467 and US 60, the one that's
Gotcha.
approximately, was about a half a mile outside of town or a mile.
Gotcha. Sounds
So
good.
that's the signal will be.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're all the projects are coming around the same time. You know, that will be, this big one will be in October. That signal will be bid in December. So you'll have a lot of work at that time. And overall, you know, we anticipate construction, you know, doing an urban job with that much complexity, the reconstruction, the storm drains, you know, you're looking at 2 years, a little over 2 years of construction. And I know sometimes that's you know, hard to deal with as a municipality, but, you know, at the end, it'll be well worth it.
Yeah, it'll definitely be worth it. We'll suffer through the meantime. You said that'll be out to bid maybe this time next year?
October of 2022, that's.
Gotcha. Very good. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Sanchez?
No questions, just appreciate all your hard work and getting this accomplished. Thank you.
I appreciate
I don't
that.
have any questions. I don't have any questions, but, you know, 6084, you know, there's a lot of traffic on that road now, and I'd like to see it a 4-lane. We got a 4-lane from here to Roswell, from here all the way to Las Cruces. And when you go from Portales to Roswell, the traffic is not as bad as it is over here. This traffic over here is horrendous when you travel west, and a lot of people travel from here west. And I think if we look at Clovis, you know, we got a crossway here. We got a 6084, then we got 70 going that way. We could do a lot with that if we had good highways coming into Clovis. We could have a lot more manufacturing, a lot more traffic coming through here. So I think it would help us to get a 4-lane on 6084.
And appreciate that, you know, we've seen it, you know, as a department, because we're trying to balance safety, the economic benefits, and we've seen it, you know, improvements in highways, especially bringing in 4 lanes or even better highways that definitely generates economic activity. Like I said, we're about to go out to study for the 684, and one huge component of the study is stakeholder input. You know, the city of Clovis will be invited as a stakeholder, Curry County, of course, Cannon Air Force Base, and your input goes a long way, especially in determining what direction we want to go with that highway. You know, secondary, of course, the safety aspect, if a 4-lane makes sense, costs, right away, we look at all that, and especially traffic, you know, does that highway warrant it 4 lanes? And during the study process, we'll look through all those variables and factors, but a huge part is stakeholder input. And so, you know, the city management, the commissioners, you'll be invited as stakeholders to give your input because it will impact the city of Clovis.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you very much, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez, thank you, sir. And this is encouraging for us to have somebody, a face that we can put to the project, what's going on and what needs to be done. I can't remember last time we had somebody from DOT come and talk to us. So this is encouraging, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Representative Crowder, you said you had something else to share with us.
I do, Mayor, and I appreciate it. Monday and Tuesday, I was in Santa Fe. We had transportation interim committee meetings. And our final presentation was to deal with the roads around the bases within the state of New Mexico. Excuse me. The very first presentation was from Cannon Air Force Base. And their presentation on their very last slide talks about a strategic highway network, or STRAYNET highway, which is a military term. And Mr. Howalt mentioned a while ago, it's hard to find any of their information online. They've got it kind of behind several shields where it's hard to find. But in April or May, as I mentioned, Secretary Sandoval and I sat down with Colonel Masitas in the engineering department, and Mr. Masters and several others. And I told them that I'd received quite a bit of information from Congresswoman Yvette Harrell and her chief of staff. They had done some research in the Library of Congress for me to help me find out about STRAYNET highways. The reason I knew about it was because Joe Thomas told me about it when I was a city commissioner sitting up there in your position. And I was trying to find a way, how do we get a 4-lane like Representative, see, I'm getting this all messed up. I'm not used to being here, I'm used to being somewhere else. But so Commissioner Madrid, I was doing the same thing, trying, how do we get a 4-lane highway out there? And then it dawned on me, what if we can get that highway classified as a STRAYNET highway? So we took the information, we did a presentation to the base, and I never heard back from them. And so I thought, well, they didn't like that idea. So, and then Monday I got a PowerPoint that said, here's the STRAYNET update. And I didn't even know they had done it. But it says the STRAYNET team, which is there's a commission, a national commission that you apply to. The military has to apply for it. But our Secretary of Transportation said, if you apply, we will do everything we can to support you. We will endorse it. We'll write letters for you. We'll do everything to help you get the STRAYNET highway. So the current situation on the STRAYNET highway at Cannon Air Force Base, their very first bullet point says, STRAYNET team has indicated their initial support for including Cannon on the STRAYNET system. The STRAYNET system is upgraded roads. They're 4-lane roads. They're built to a very heavy standard to carry very heavy equipment. If you've got to move troops or tanks or any heavy military equipment, they've got to be capable of handling it. You cannot have any railroad crossings. You have to bridge over or tunnel under railroads. You can't block those. And what their purpose is to move troops from interior United States, from coast to coast, down to a coast, or throughout the country. In other words, the STRAYNET highway we have is Highway 70, goes through Portales down to Roswell, and it turns and goes to Amarillo. It doesn't go through Lubbock because it can't cross those tracks. You can't cross the track. You'd have to bridge over it or tunnel under it. And so it turns and goes up to Amarillo, goes from El Paso all the way up in the eastern part of the country. I didn't realize that it says that the STRAYNET system, the second bullet, will extend the existing 6084 STRAYNET route to include the Cannon main gate. So they've already indicated they will go from Prince Street to the main gate, approximately 7 miles. The STRAYNET evaluating extending the 6084 route to Maffer, which is Melrose Air Force Range, and Roosevelt Road. There is a precedent for connecting to training ranges. STRAYNET has required additional information about the utilization of Maffer for ground training, and we know there's a lot of ground training goes on out there. They do a lot of exercises and things. But they have indicated that they want to support that. And they did say, the last bullet point says, their estimated timeline to assess and issue determination is approximately 3 months. So within about 90 days, we're going to have a good idea of where we are on 6084. And from Prince Street to their gate, I measured it when I drove home Tuesday, is 37 miles. So we'll have 37 miles of really nice. And when you're deemed as a STRAYNET highway, you have access to federal funds for your roads. So it should be a good thing. I want to encourage you, we're doing everything we can. We have a great team in Santa Fe. We've got a great secretary. We've got a great District 2 engineer. I'm more hopeful now than I have been in a long time. So, Mayor, thank you for letting us have so much of your time. I appreciate it very
Well,
much.
thank you for bringing that in. Great job on all of that. Appreciate that, Representative Crowder, very much.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, I want to give a short presentation on LIDA for retail, but before I do, I want to check and see if there's anyone else from the public that has anything that they wish to share this evening. Anyone from the public that wants to bring something before the commission? Seeing none, I will, as I mentioned, give you a quick presentation on LIDA for retail. Commissioners, I don't have to tell you how excited I am about this and how long and how hard we've worked on this. A wonderful team working together that included, and you know, I feel bad that Representative Crowder just left because he was instrumental. If not for him, it wouldn't have passed the House in the last legislative session. But wanted to update you. Let's go on to the next slide. For the public's benefit, I wanted to I just wanted to mention that on the November ballot, so the Curry County election ballot for November 2nd is a very important question for the citizens of Clovis, and it's a question regarding local Economic Development Act funding, and I want to stress that it is not a question about a tax increase or not a tax increase. There is not a tax increase associated with this in any way. Rather, the question is about the use of economic development funds that the city already has, that the city already generates through a dedicated gross receipts tax. There has been a recent change in the state law, as I mentioned, Senate Bill 49 that Representative Crowder helped us tremendously with, changed the state law, which previously restricted what a community like ours could use their local economic development funding on. And it reserved it solely for industry. So for incentivizing industry, and manufacturing, and that type of thing. But this change in the law came about and now opens up the ability to use your economic development funds to incentivize retail development. And that is the only thing that's been added. Otherwise, we're talking about the same funds that are dedicated to economic development, and we're talking about the same process for considering projects to support with these public funds. And now I'm ready to go back to the slide just before this one, if we could, IT, and talk about the typical flow of an economic development project. Mr. Malloy was just here from CIDC. Ernie Koss is still here from the Chamber and CIDC. And so they are well acquainted with this process, as are most of you commissioners. But for the public's benefit, I wanted to just talk about the flow of an economic development project. It begins, if you start there on the left, at CIDC. Clovis Industrial Development Corporation is the contractor that does the work of economic development for our community. So they identify prospects, or prospects approach them and ask what incentives, what funding is available, those kinds of things. So there's an application process at CIDC. CIDC is a local board, and you have local professionals, sharp folks at CIDC that are going to qualify those projects, see that they meet criteria. They're going to vet those projects. And if it moves forward, then the next step is the project goes before the Economic Incentive Board, which is a city board. It's a board appointed by you, commissioners, and the makeup of that board is all citizens. There are no elected officials on Economic Incentive Board, so you have citizens representing citizens and vetting these projects. So CIDC would bring the project to EIB, Economic Incentive Board, where citizens sitting on that board would vet the project and make a determination and a recommendation that would wind up here at the City Commission. city commission would have final say on whether or not to support an economic development project. And that process, that flow is true as of right now, and only pertains to industry and not retail, because as it stands, we are not supporting retail. But if the voters say yes in the November 2nd election, then retail development projects, both expansion of an existing retail establishment in our city, if they're going to be expanding and creating new jobs, that would qualify. And then also new business coming to town, new retail business coming to town could be dropped right into this flow, where it's going to start at CIDC, be vetted by EIB, and then wind up at the commission potentially. So we'll go on to the next slide, please. And that's where we have a description about what happened with Senate Bill 49. The legislature amended the State Local Economic Development Act and allows now cities of 35,000 and above in population to treat retail development as economic development. I want to point out that that has been allowed for cities smaller than us, smaller than 35,000, all along. So it's just now, we've leveled the playing field. The legislature leveled the playing field to allow cities our size to do this. So we'll move on to the next slide, please. Let's talk about the definition of retail. I want to be very clear about this. We're talking about adding retail to the economic development toolbox in Clovis, right? So what is retail? There is a definition in the state statute that we use to define retail here in our city, and it is a business that is primarily engaged in the sale of goods or commodities at retail and located in a municipality, in this case Clovis. And you see a couple of bullet points there having to do with population. There, prior to the change in the law earlier this year, there were, under 15,000, there were certain rules that applied. Between 15,000 and 35,000, there was another set of rules. Now, economic or retail development is economic development per this definition. So I want to point out that that is the definition. Retail is defined as businesses engaged in the sale of goods or commodities at retail. We don't have an asterisk to say everything that it excludes, but that excludes restaurants and fast food restaurants. They're not included in the definition of retail. So I want to be very clear about that. So we'll move on and talk about what the incentives are currently. And we talked about the typical flow, and so an economic development project within the industry realm is public funds given to or awarded to a project that is in exchange going to do certain things, create a certain number of jobs and those kinds of things, right? But the funds are used to offset land, building, and infrastructure investment on the part of the industry that would be applying. Same is true for retail. If we add retail development to this, then that's what retail development projects could qualify for, to offset their land, building, and infrastructure costs. All of these awards would be post-performance, okay? So we wouldn't talk to someone who tells us, oh, we're going to come and we're going to create, hundreds of jobs and do lots of retail business and generate a lot of GRT, and then we're going to just give them money up front, trusting that they're going to do that. That's not how it's going to go. Again, go back to the flow of the project, CIDC, then EIB, then finally at the commission. These are going to be post-performance awards, if at all, right? Okay? So we'll move on and mention that our chamber, we're so grateful for the partnerships that we have across the community, certainly grateful for the partnership that we have with the Chamber of Commerce in August, seeing this coming and knowing that it was going to be going out to the voters and representing business in our city. The chamber unanimously voted to approve a resolution in support of the local implementation of this. And we have a couple of folks from the chamber today. Of course, our chamber director, Ms. Ernie Koss, but we also have Latrice Brooks, who is not only a board member, but she's also the chairperson for the Chamber Retail Committee. And if you had anything you wanted to add, either of you, I'd welcome that. And I can pause or I can keep going. Please. Hello, Mrs. Brooks. Thank you for being here. Again, Ms. Brooks is a Chamber board member and also chairperson for the Chamber Retail Committee.
Thank you for the opportunity, and we want to say a big thank you for spearheading this project, because it is very important, and what I understand is it's been tried for many, many years and has not had a good success rate, but our mayor pushed forward and got it done. So we are excited about that. I've gone to several board meetings with him and to several different entities where he's talked about this. And my biggest thing is in support of him and this House Bill 49?
Oh, Senate Bill 49.
Senate Bill 49.
Yes. Yes.
We have the opportunity to talk to people in our circles, because not everybody's coming to these public meetings, not everybody's in an organization, and so it's important to get the word out about what that question is and what it really means. And we hear a lot of rumors already that, you know, why isn't it this and why isn't it that and why doesn't it go to this fund or that fund? But helping people understand that this is a line item already created by gross receipt tax, and the money's already there. We just want to boost the retail opportunity, and that's where this town is hurting tremendously. And so we've really worked with our local businesses to stay afloat during COVID, and those people that have hung on, they need that support. They had several opportunities to where they had to do things to keep their business afloat, and because of that grant that we received, that helped. But to expand their current business, to hire more employees, to get things done that they need to do, this also supports them, the local originating businesses. So we want you to say yes to this question, and we highly support it, and thank you for this opportunity, and share with your friends, neighbors, and coworkers.
Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate the Chamber's support. So, commissioners and members of the public, you have the Chamber of Commerce, who represents their, I'm sorry, Ms. Koss, did you have something? When you're done, I'll go. Okay, well, sorry about that. I looked over and I thought, oh no, I didn't allow you the opportunity. I will. You're welcome to share. But what I wanted to point out, commissioners, and for members of the public, I want you to catch this. You have the Chamber of Commerce. Their membership is all local businesses, or mostly local businesses. They represent business in our community, yet they support this. Why is that? Because they understand that a rising tide has a way of raising all boats, right? And they also understand that the work that we would do, if allowed to use this and do the economic development work of developing our retail sector, is all going to be done based on an opportunity gap analysis. Plainly put, if there is a category of retail that's already well represented in our city, you won't see the city seeking to use public funds to incentivize them to come in. Now, if they want to come in, God bless them, and we hope they run a good business and they're successful, but we wouldn't use public funds to incentivize a category of retail that's already well represented. No, the motive here is to fill the gaps in our retail offering. There is money leaving our community every day and being spent over in Texas, where, by the way, they incentivize retail development. So we need this in order to begin filling the holes and the gaps in our retail offering. And as we start to do that, as the hemorrhage starts to slow, then our local economy is lifted, because that's another job or two here, or another 10 or 20 or 100 jobs here. That's more money being spent here. That's more revenue coming through the city coffers by way of gross receipts, so that the city can provide services like fire and EMS and police, sanitation, all those things. So that is the motivation, is to shore up our local economy, and we're going to do all of that if allowed by the voters, and we're going to do that through opportunity gap analysis, And I just think that we have a great opportunity as citizens and as voters to be a part of making a big decision that's going to change what quality of life looks like for our community going forward, that's going to change what the health and growth of our local economy looks like going forward. So I want to hit on the ballot question itself, because this thing is written, as these things are, in legalese. So please, let's understand that this is the question that you're going to see on the ballot, and then we're going to show you a sample ballot. And this portion of tonight's meeting is going to be cut out and made available online for anybody to watch back. But you want to notice that this is the question that you're going to run into on the ballot. Shall the city of Clovis allow retail businesses to constitute a qualifying entity for the purpose of furthering or implementing economic development plans and providing public support for projects as defined in the Local Economic Development Act? So that's the question. And then on the next slide, we have a sample ballot. That may be hard to see, but again, this is available on the city's Facebook page. It's been shared there, and we're going to share this portion of this meeting again. But depending on where you live, this may be your ballot. Very simple. 2 unopposed races for soil and water conservancy, followed by the question that we're talking about at the bottom of the ballot. Very simple ballot, very straightforward. If you happen to live in School Board District 1, there's a school board race that you'll vote on, and then these things. But it's a one-page ballot, and that's what we're looking at. Early voting has already started on Tuesday, October 5th. There's a second early voting location that's being stood up at the mall on the 16th, and then the election itself is on November 2nd. So I encourage the public to be informed about this and to consider what an opportunity we have before us, and I hope you'll get out and vote.
Very well.
All right, we will move on. Commissioners, one last chance while we're in. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's not like I could forget you, but I'm so sorry.
I know.
Miss Ernie Koss.
Thank you, Mayor.
All you had to do was look at her face, Mayor. She's telling you a lot of
I'm
things
embarrassed.
without
Sorry about
saying
that.
No, don't be embarrassed. As a voice for the Clovis-Carver County Chamber, I just want to emphasize that our organization is in full support of this change for supporting retail's economic development. So I've been there long enough that I was involved with the original LEDA when we passed it in 2000? 2000. So the chamber took the lead in CIDC and actually partnered with local media to make that happen. And so it's exciting to see that we can now include retail, hopefully. So I just want to also say that we supported LEDA as a legislative priority in last November. And so we, both CIDC and the Chamber had this as one of our top main priorities. And so we were actively involved in the efforts to support Mayor Morris while he was at the state trying to get this passed. And so we're real proud of you. And then you already mentioned that the Chamber Board had unanimously supported this. And so I just, I mean, we are an organization of businesses. We have approximately 600 members. And so especially, since we've had the pandemic and trying to keep businesses strong and open and stuff, we understand that retail is a significant economic driver. And so I just appreciate you, Mayor, coming to the Chamber Ambassadors yesterday, because I knew it was coming up. I mean, we've had a lot on our mind at the office. And I knew it was coming up, and I didn't think about the fact that early voting started a couple days ago. So we really need to get the information out as it relates to getting this change. And so it's an exciting opportunity for Clovis, and so whatever we can do to support you, we're happy to do so.
Well, I appreciate that, and let me thank you once again in this public forum for all of your support along the way. With the passing of Chase Gentry lately, it's kind of, I know it's been difficult down at the chamber, and what a tremendous loss for our community. And, we're talking about economic development tonight, whether it be the manufacturing month or this, and, what a loss. But commissioners, early on, I went over and saw Chase and Ernie and talked to them about this effort and that we wanted to do this. And they got behind it. And they got behind it in a big way. They networked among the other chambers and economic development organizations around the state and got support for this thing. And there were resolutions going into the legislature because of Ernie and Chase talking about this with the other chambers. We had support from all over the state due to your efforts, and I just thank you for that. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for mentioning that, because I was sitting over there thinking how happy Chase would be, because it's Manufacturing Day, and then we've all got this excitement opportunity with Lita, and then Lee and Taylor had to run out there and catch the Department of Transportation guy, because we have a project that we need his help with, and so it's an exciting time for Clovis.
It sure is. Thanks a lot, Ms. Koss. Appreciate it. Before we leave petitions of communications or receipts of petitions and communications, is there anyone from the public that has something that they would like to bring before the commission? Seeing none, commissioners? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was being too quick there. Good evening, sir. Let's have your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Christopher Finch. Address is going to be 1212 West Yucca.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, I was coming up because I wanted to bring up a discussion of ordinances for zoning. I know we're talking about LIDA and all that good stuff, and I feel like cannabis is definitely something that can generate the kind of income that we want to, bring to our city. But besides that, as far as the zoning, I feel like we're having issues with getting our business started because some of them seem a little unfair, I guess, in a sense, but we just want to discuss it, really, so we can get some things changed about it.
Okay. And are you having that discussion? Have you talked to the city manager?
I
Have you
have.
talked to planning and zoning?
I have. I have actually went through all the channels as of now to get the topic of the zoning changed. It was supposed to actually be on the agenda for zoning and planning this past week, but there was an issue with the zoning application change. But I think a lot of things that we're seeing is that for the producing side, we're already pushed over to the industrial side. So we're literally almost to the outer limits of the city. So with that being said, I mean, we're not going to be in the residential area, and then on top of that, we're actually not selling to, to the public. So, for us to be put on blast, or be put on spot for the zoning for residential, it's kind of overkill. We're thinking so.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that, and we can take it under consideration.
For sure.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Finch. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Commissioners, we have made it all the way to our consent agenda. Are you ready? As you know, this item is placed on the agenda so that the commission, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine agenda items that they wish to be approved or acknowledged by one motion. If any proposal does not meet with the approval of all commission members, or if a citizen so requests, that item will be heard when reached under the regular agenda. Commissioners, you have 13 items on the consent agenda or proposed for the consent agenda. The first is the motion to place. The 13th is the motion to approve. I will read 2 through 12. Item 2, request for approval of adoption of resolution number 3093, 2021, election resolution. Item 3, request for approval of adoption of resolution number 3094-2021, approving participation in the Transportation Project Fund program administered by New Mexico Department of Transportation. Item 4, request for approval of budget transfer to cover 13% of the total cost of 2 new buses for the Clovis area transit system. Item 5, request for approval of donation of City of Clovis ambulance to the Village of Dora. Item 6, request for approval of amendment to service agreement between the City of Clovis and Stericycle. Item 7, request for approval of budget transfer in the amount of $25,000 from General Fund Cash Reserve to 75-0601-67580, equipment for the purchase of a street department dump truck. Item 8, request for approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the 26th Special Tactics Squadron and the Clovis Regional Airport for the use of airport for military jump operations. Item 9, request for approval of Integrated Public Alert and Warning System renewal agreement between the City of Clovis and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Item 10, request for approval to apply for and accept 2021 Homeland Security Grant Program funding. Item 11, request for approval to waive dumping fees at the Clovis Regional Landfill for Clovis Curry County residents from noon Friday, October 8th to noon Monday, October 11th for the Trek for Trash cleanup. Request includes that dumping of tires be allowed by residential customers, but limited to 9 passenger vehicle tires per household. Item 12, request for approval to appoint Alex White and Ella Howalt to serve as student representatives on the Clovis-Carver Library Board. Commissioners, that is your consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to place the indicated items on the consent agenda by unanimous vote.
I so move.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Garza, second from Mayor Pro Tem Bryant, and Commissioners, I have been advised that the voting system is not working, so we'll do a roll call, please.
It is.
This is a fluid situation. Commissioners, please vote. And Commissioner Paula, may I have your vote, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And the vote is 7-0. It's unanimous. The motion is carried. The items have been placed on the consent agenda. I would now entertain a motion to approve or acknowledge all items on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Madrid, second from Commissioner Casaus. Commissioners, please vote. Commissioner Paula, may I have your vote, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And the vote is 7-0, unanimous. The motion is carried. Thank you. Next is introduction and adoption of resolutions and ordinances. We have one item there to deal with this evening, Commissioners. It is request for approval of introduction of an ordinance approving an application for an economic development project enlarging and extending the city's water system to the Clovis Regional Airport and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the New Mexico Economic Development Department and the City of Clovis. Ms. Burrows, would you advise?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. The city applied for a State of New Mexico Local Economic Development Act grant to construct a water transmission line to the Clovis Regional Airport. The State of New Mexico requires an ordinance to be adopted by the applicant authorizing the application and the execution of an intergovernmental agreement. The State of New Mexico is approving up to $2,135,321 towards the cost of this project. The ordinance is included in your package, so this is the first step in moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Burrows. And thank you to Mr. Howalt, Ms. Burrows, and I suppose Ms. Knight, everyone that worked on the LEDA application. You know, we did a lot of talking earlier about the municipal LEDA. So the Local Economic Development Act funding that the city has and the city generates and it's in the city budget. These folks went to the state LEDA fund and were successful in getting this grant of over $2.1 million to extend the city's water system out to the airport, which, by the way, there's a lot of great things going on with the airport and a lot of hopes and dreams about, development out there. And our city tends to sort of be growing that way, and this all just makes good sense, I think. Commissioners, any questions or comments on this?
I think this is a good thing, so I move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Garza and a second from Commissioner Madrid. Any further debate? Hearing and seeing none. Commissioners, please vote. Commissioner Paula, may I have your vote, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And the vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. And once again, Mr. Howalt, Ms. Burrows, awesome job on the application to get this funding to do this important project. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Nothing to deal with under unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. And Commissioners, we have the pleasure of looking at applicants and appointing a commissioner for the vacant District 1 seat created by Commissioner Lovett's resignation. Item 1 here, request for approval of appointment of commissioner to represent City of Clovis, District 1. Ms. Burrows.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. Commissioner Lovett submitted his intention to resign the City Commission effective September the 8th, 2021. And then at your meeting held on September the 9th, you approved a process for moving forward with that. Section 4-5 of the Clovis City Charter states a vacancy in the office of Commissioner, Mayor, or Municipal Judge occurs upon the officer's death, disability, resignation, or termination of residency in the city or the district represented. If the office is vacated, the remaining members of the commission shall appoint a registered qualified elector to fill the vacancy within 30 days of the vacancy. Any registered qualified elector appointed to fill a vacancy shall serve until the next regular city election, at which time a registered qualified elector shall be elected to fill the remaining unexpired term, if any. So the City of Clovis advertised the positions. You have received 4 applicants, Mr. James Burns, Mr. George Jones, Mr. Justin Nutt, and Mr. Michael Thaleen. They have submitted applications, and that they are all in your packet for your review this evening. So they would serve until the next regular municipal election, which is scheduled for March 2022. I contacted the individuals, and I believe they are all here this evening to meet with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burrows. Appreciate that. Commissioners, we're following our charter, and we have 4 wonderful applicants. We'll give you each time to come and share with us, and we'll go in alphabetical order. Before we begin that, I just wanted to say thank you right up top and express my gratitude, knowing a little bit about what it takes to put yourself out there to try and do something like this. I appreciate the decision-making process that you must have gone through, and we're grateful that you're willing to serve the City of Clovis and your district. We will give each of you, and we won't hard stop you at 5 minutes. We want to spend the time that we need to hear from you and have questions asked and answered by the commissioners if they have them. What we'll do is we'll go in alphabetical order. I believe they're in your packet in alphabetical order, commissioners. And so first, Mr. James Burns. We'll give you 5 minutes to speak to us about your desire to be appointed, and then possibly have you stand for questions, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. First thing I want to say is I think that the city has been run very well in the last many years. Actually, I won't put a particular time frame on that, but I like what's going on in the city, and I'd like to be a part of what goes on in the future. Just a little bit about maybe my qualifications. I actually served on a city commission many years ago when I was a young man, and have a little bit of experience in that respect. Small city in Texas. I am a member of a Rotary Club here in town, served as president. I was on the board of directors of United Way. I was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. Served as a Scoutmaster in Boy Scouts, as well as the district chairman. Served with the Habitat of Humanity and actually helped them open their local store here in town. And worked with food pantry at my church, served in that capacity for many years. I was a member of the board of directors of the Southwest Hardware Association and board of directors of the First National Bank of New Mexico, and currently on the New Mexico Military Planning Commission. So that's a little bit of my qualifications, and I don't really have much more to say beyond that, so I'll stand for questions.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. Once again, thanks for your interest in this. In your packet, you all had the the painful task of prioritizing several issues, right?
Right.
And I think about having to do that myself and how difficult that would be. You listed public safety as number one priority. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Well, I think as a government entity, the number one thing that the city should do is protect the citizens. So whether that be fire protection or police protection, I just think that is the most important thing that the city can do.
Great, thank you for that. And you listed sixth and seventh, economic development and quality of life. Probably because you're like me and a lot of other people, you love it here, and we enjoy a great quality of life. But talk about that. Why are economic development and quality of life listed low as a priority?
Was it the low?
Or lower?
Again, I think a city commission is charged with those other things that, in my opinion, are more important that they focus their time and efforts on. That's not to say that, like you said, very difficult to rank those. And a lot of them, I would maybe make them equal rather than up or down. But I do think that the quality of life in Clovis is great. And the things that the city has done in the last few years in that respect are really good. There are, some ideas out there that we could maybe do more. The gun range, I think, is great. I'm looking forward to that being opened. The improvements at the park with the water park and the walking trails and dog park, and it just made a really nice area for the city. And they continue to, you guys continue to improve that area. I think what's going on at the golf course right now is really exciting and neat. And I like the water project with the affluent water that's coming into the community to keep things green. So again, I think the city is doing really well right now.
Great. Appreciate that. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Burns? Comments?
I did have a question regarding the importance of water, but you actually just answered it with the reuse project and the conservation projects that we're currently working on. So thank you for your interest in that.
Yeah, and I've got some ideas in that respect as far as conservation, but I'm really excited with the direction that the water initiative is going with the hire of Mrs. Clayton, and I think we're really moving in the right direction in that respect, and I'm confident that our pipeline will get completed fairly soon.
Any other questions?
I was going to ask about.
Go ahead.
Just
go ahead. Let him go first.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Madrid. Go ahead.
Okay. You listed finances as number 3. Now, number 1 is public safety, but without finances, we don't have public safety.
Well, that's true.
We're going to have to have finances so we can take care of public safety and all the other stuff too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't argue that, but beyond, we've got to provide the public safety, so we got to figure out where to get the financing. So, I mean, it's, you could swap them, but absolutely, both of them are important.
Of course, the city does have a good finance director, so we're really blessed that our finances are really good.
Yeah, I think that's obvious by the initiatives that have been going on in the city. Money's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
That's all I have.
Thanks for that, Commissioner. Commissioner Garza, you had a question.
I was going to touch on that with economic development being 6th in the list. Without economic development, we can't have anything else either. So that's a problem in itself, not having economic development initiatives. Also on planning and zoning housing, can you expand a little bit on what does that mean on housing with code enforcement and
lack of housing, Commissioner. I don't really know how to attack this, but we need more housing in Clovis. And I think specifically, we could use a lower income, and I'm using the wrong words here. We need apartment housing for people that do not qualify for low-income housing. And so how do we get that?
I don't see how that pertains to planning and zoning, though.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were asking me
Well,
about
it's-
housing.
You say housing, but then it lists code enforcement and planning and zoning together on the mixture on your.
Where are we, Mr. Burns, Commissioner Garza is referencing again in that ranking. There was
Okay.
one which you ranked fifth,
Fifth.
housing, code enforcement, planning and zoning.
So you're talking about housing, we don't have enough homes, I understand that part.
Okay.
But then it's referencing planning and zoning also on your list, on the ranking. What is that about, planning and zoning, code enforcement?
Well, you guys put it on the list. So it had to get a rank.
You gave it a 5,
Yeah.
so what is your concern on that? Planning and zoning, I mean, we just got.
You know, I really don't have a concern on planning and zoning. There again, it was on the list, had to be ranked.
Okay, and I'm going like the 5, I mean, what's your idea of ranking that a 5? So, since I sit on planning and zoning, I think planning and zoning is doing a great job right now with all the personnel that we have.
I could not argue that.
It's moving in the right direction.
Yes, I agree.
From the first time in a long time. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Commissioner, appreciate that. Yeah, the ranking is torture. So,
Apparently so.
We recognize that.
I touched a nerve.
We recognize that, but your comments about housing are, in my opinion, right on, and, you know, we do have a housing shortage, and I think your comment about apartments is right. There's a shortage of apartments, and I think if we had another apartment complex built tomorrow, it would be full by the next day. I mean, there are folks.
It absolutely would,
Yeah,
and this is a major issue actually for Cannon Air Force Base. So
Yeah.
we just need somebody with some money that's willing to invest it in Clovis.
That's right. That's right. Well, Mr. Burns, thank you very much. Last call, commissioners.
One question, do you plan to run for the seat in March?
Yes.
Let me check with Commissioner Paula. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Byrne, if you're appointed to this position, what idea or issues are most important to you?
Well, the housing, number one, and I'm still, struggling to come up with any kind of a solution that the city commission could do in that respect, but I'm sure there's some things out there. Number two, water, again, but there, I think I think we're well on our way in the right direction with the water issues. So just those two.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Commissioner Paula. Mr. Burns, thank you very much. Appreciate your willingness to serve and for being here tonight to make your case and apply. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Next, Mr. George Jones. Give you a few minutes to let us know about your desire to be appointed, and then may have some
For the
questions for you.
Georgia.
Yeah, right.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity and your consideration for the vacant District 1 position. You have my application, so I'm not going to go through all those items. I will say that I'm committed to serving the citizens of the city of Clovis and District 1. My family and I have made Clovis our home, and we continue to look for ways to help our community better. If selected by the commission to fill the vacant District 1 position, I look forward to working with each and one of you, and with that, I will stand for questions.
Appreciate that, Mr. Jones. Commissioners? Commissioner Madrid?
Mr. Jones,
Yes, Commissioner.
I think you are really interested in the city of Clovis because I've seen you in a lot of committees. What committees do you serve on now?
Two for the city, Commissioner. I serve on the Economic Incentive Board and Public Works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you feel like is the main challenge for the city at this time, and how would you address that?
Economic development is obviously the biggest challenge. It's what's going to bring the income into the city for us to do the things that we need to do. And then I think COVID is still presenting its challenges that we have to work through. Don't know what those answers are, but they are difficult to work through. And then finally, water. Obviously, we've got to stay on top of the water situation here in Clovis and Curry County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, you ranked economic development as number one, and you really just kind of spoke to that. You ranked on the lower end of things, housing, and then you were able to add an 8 there in relationship with county commission. Talk about either of those.
So for the planning and zoning, I think we're doing well with that. The housing, we're trying to attack that the best we can, I believe, at this point in time. And I think there needs to be a solid relationship between the commissioners of the city as well as Curry County. I've just heard some rumblings that relationship might not be as solid as it should be, and I'm willing to try to strive out there and work on that relationship.
Nice, appreciate that.
There's a lot of rumors on that, I just have a comment on the housing. You know, that's pretty much a private enterprise.
Yes.
So if somebody comes to us for help on issues with code or whatever, then we work with them. But it should be a private issue, enterprise, and not the city per se. Although we're willing to work with anybody that wants to develop a piece of land. Quality of life, what you see there on, since you rank number 5, what you think we should be doing as commissioners?
I think we're already doing it by bringing in businesses with especially our food industry and things like that. I deal a lot with the Airmen of Cannon, and that is a concern. You know, they have to go out of town for the entertainment and things like that, and we're doing those type of things already within the city and just continuing that path of bringing those type of businesses in to keep our airmen here local versus driving over to Lubbock and Amarillo or even Albuquerque in some instances.
Any other questions? I'll check with Commissioner Paula. Did you have a question for Mr. Jones?
Mr. Jones, I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. Burns. If appointed to this position, what idea or issue is most important to you?
As I've already stated, economic development is number 1 for me, and then water, and then continuing to work with the city and the state on COVID issues and getting through this pandemic as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to steal Commissioner Bryant's question. Are you planning to run in March?
I am, yes.
Great. Well, we certainly appreciate your interest in serving, Mr. Jones. Last call, Commissioners, questions for Mr. Jones? Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Appreciate you. All right. Commissioners, next in the packet is Mr. Justin Nutt. Mr. Nutt, we certainly appreciate your willingness, and we'll give you a few minutes to talk about your desire to be appointed, and then may have some questions for you.
Okay. So I've not been here as long as most people in this room, I will admit that, but it is where we plan to live for the foreseeable future. Raise our daughter here. She's 6, so that gives me another 20 years or so minimum. And honestly, my desire is just to make it a better community, a healthier community. Stay true to what Clovis is, but at the same time build a better future. So stand for questions. I wrote a long-winded speech, but nobody else had one, so I won't be the only guy keeping us here. So.
Okay, very good. Well, in looking at the ranking that you did, I think that's again, it's torture to have to rank these things, but I do think that it's worth talking about. You ranked public safety as number 1. Talk about that.
So to me, I think public safety is a piece that is bigger than just police, fire. I think we have to look at mental health. I think we have to look at physical health. So when I looked at public safety, I looked at it as a bigger issue than just public services. I think that we have to look at the number of suicides that we have in New Mexico. I think that we need to look at the bringing in the facility, but at the same time standing up services that support the ability to staff an inpatient hospital while not depleting all the other, outpatient or schools or the hospital or mental health resources. And so for me, that's a big reason that I listed at number one. You're right, ranking was torture because I see them as all interrelated. I mean, I find it really hard to say this one's more important when it impacts the others, so.
Appreciate that answer. And on the other end of the spectrum, you ranked quality of life and social/youth services and community services development as kind of on the lower end. Again, I hear you. Most of these things are interconnected.
Exactly.
But talk about that. Quality of life was kind of a lower priority. Just
well, I mean,
share with us.
I can say that I have lived across, I don't even know how many thousands of miles in the last 10 years. And this is the place that I put down roots. So to me, quality of life's already here. It's a matter of maintaining it. So, and the other items help us maintain the quality of life we already have.
Very good. Very good. Appreciate that. Commissioner Paula, did you want to ask a question?
Mr. Nutt, I understand how difficult the ranking is. I did that myself not too long ago. It is torture to do that. But aside from those 8 topics right there, do you have one other idea or issue that's very important to you?
Well, actually, my long-winded speech covered 3. I think the biggest is economic development, working with LEDA and bringing in outside businesses, national chains, but also raising up more local businesses. But I also think water is important. I think there's a lot of possibilities with the work that's being done on the floodplains, capture that water. I lived in El Paso. One of the things they did there was when they had flooding, they redirected the water. They captured the water, they reused it. It's much drier there. There's 800,000 people, so it did not make the impact it would here. We have much more rainfall and snow and far, far fewer people. So I think that's a piece. So.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor, if I can ask one question. If what you just mentioned about water, do you think we're doing everything we can to conserve water?
I think that we are within reason doing everything we can. I mean, I guess we could go out and ticket people that are watering their yards on the off days. But I think that by and large, we are doing much of what we can here. Okay. I think that we need to work to bring in water from outside areas, capture the water that falls, the runoff. Storm drains are a great idea, but that's just going to go off over here versus capturing it, putting it in a holding tank or holding pond, processing that, and making it a renewable source.
And do you plan to run for this seat in the next election?
Yes, I do.
Any further questions? Mr. Nutt, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Mr. Baleen.
Yes, sir.
We'll give you a few minutes and to talk to us about your desire to serve, and then we'll have some questions for you, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mayor, Pro Tem, Commissioners. My family moved here 13 years ago. We relocated from Washington, D.C., and came here to work on Cannon Air Force Base. And we have really enjoyed living here to the point that after 22 years of military service, we decided to stay. We had a business here, and when I got picked up for military contracting, we decided to close the business and to keep the family unit close. And I've been working as a contractor for the past 10 years out there on Cannon Air Force Base. While I've been on Cannon, some of my qualifications was I helped stand up the 3rd Special Ops Squadron as they were transitioning from Las Vegas, Nevada to here. After that, I helped set up the 551st, the drone training program there, and helped write the first syllabus. And then when I retired, I became part of Lockheed Martin and now Credence, And we have a collective bargaining agreement. And I served as the president for the collective bargaining agreement for 2 years, in which not only have I managed the program, several pieces of equipment, but also $1 million contracts between the CBA and companies. So those are my qualifications that I hope to bring to the council.
Appreciate that very much. Sir, we ask everyone else about the ranking. You ranked, as did a couple of the others. Number one, public safety.
Yes.
Talk about that.
And a lot like the others, it's not just the police, it's not just the fire department, but it's a lot of things. It's the hospitals, of course. With COVID, we hear about, how overworked the hospitals have been through this entire pandemic process. That is public safety just as much as a fireman or a police department. Our doctors, our nurses, the administrations that run these hospitals are working overtime to make sure our public safety is met. So that's why I feel it is so important, especially in this time.
Appreciate that. Thank you for that answer. Commissioners or Mayor Pro Tem, do you have questions?
I do have one. What do you feel is the main challenge for the community at this time, and how would you address that?
Obviously, water is a huge issue, as well as economic development for this community. Where this community is different than other places, I put in my packet about the city's identity, and how other cities like let's say Fort Sumner or Roswell, they kind of sit on their histories. Roswell crashed 47, or Billy the Kid. Ours has always been advancements. I mean, it goes everything from the music industry to the railroad, even to the military, where things start off here and have expanded outward. And so we need to better our infrastructure, better our economics in order to be able to grow, because this city is growing. It's not growing as fast as, let's say, Hobbs, and we need to find out why. What would make us grow, which is we're pretty much the same size in square miles. We're pretty much the same as when it comes to a lot of the businesses and everything that are there. But Hobbs grew by 16% over the past 2 census. We grew by 3.4. And for us to be able to become a growing city, we need to find out what did other cities do. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good question. Commissioner Paula, I'd like to check with you, see if you had anything to ask.
I do. I have a question for Mr. Thaleen. Mr. Thaleen, you made me chuckle in your answers when you talked about the youth hanging out in the Hobby Lobby parking lot and dreaming of the day they can leave here and never look back. What suggestions do you have for the city to promote a bright future for our youth and to make them want to stay?
This is where we get into the economic development. We also get into city development. We need to start talking more to the youth centers. We talk to the youth, maybe from the schools or whatever, and find out what they see as lacking here. The base is always doing something like that. Youth centers, skate parks, this, that, and the other. Granted, they're funded by the government. They get whatever they need for the most part, and in order for that quality of life. I think we need to do the same thing as well. And it's not just, putting something in the paper or putting something on Facebook, but it's the actual interaction of the people of this government to go out and actually talk to the people and find out what they do want. What would make them be more, comfortable, have more things to do here. And it literally going out and shaking hands with the people and talking to the people face to face is what's important.
Thank you very much.
Great question, great answer. Any other questions? If you're appointed, do you plan to run?
Yes, sir.
Did I miss that somewhere?
I think that's usually your question. Yeah, one of you usually has that one, so I had you covered there. Well, Mr. Thaleen, we are grateful to have the chance to meet you and hear from you this evening. We appreciate your interest in this. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me say something. I was gonna say, your ideas are great. And, if you don't get selected tonight and all that stuff, I wish you'd look into these programs that we have here, and get interested in the city. And then I think you have some great ideas, so I think you ought to get into these committees. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again. Commissioners, we are so lucky to have 4 fantastic applicants. Any of these 4 gentlemen would do a great job in my estimation. In that is, talk about, the torture of that ranking that they all have to go through. We can only choose one, or you can only choose one of these 4. But you have paper ballots with which to do this. Commissioner Paula will need to give me her vote verbally since she's joined us. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. So she's able to vote on, okay. Very good. Well, Commissioners, unless you have any other comments or questions, please make your selection on this appointment. And once again, applicants, as the votes are tallied, thank you for your interest, and I mean it, outstanding. We would be lucky to have any of the 4 of you. And so to tag on to what Commissioner Madrid had to say to the last applicant, I encourage the 3 of you that aren't selected, please continue serving somewhere. And we need your involvement on committees and boards, and I know that you're all serving in various ways in the community, whether that be at the city or otherwise, as it is. But I just hope that you'll be encouraged by me and this commission tonight that if you're not selected for this, we need you somewhere. So please keep looking for that spot.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, Mr. James Burns has been selected as the District 1 Commissioner. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Burns.
Thank you.
Well done, and thank you to the other applicants as well. Appreciate it very much. Commissioners, that was our last piece of new business, so we'll move on to reports. And I wonder, can we have a report regarding the Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Committee meeting that took place on Monday, September 27th?
Yes.
Commissioner Madrid.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we had a meeting at 4:30 Monday, September the 27th. And we went and toured the Joe C. Thompson Archery and Wing Shooting Training Center. And it was really interesting. They're almost done with it, so it's gonna be a nice center when they get it done. I think it's gonna be done in October, the end of October and the 1st of November, more or less.
That is safe to say.
Okay. And then we had discussion on the AYSO and CYSA soccer organizations. And I think we're gonna go ahead and try to combine them both together to one field. And then we had an upgrade regarding policies and procedures on memorial gift donations and policies. We had policies on memorials and donation policies, and we have a whole procedure deal that it's gonna come up to the commission to go ahead and approve them eventually. So anything you have to add to these?
No, and thank you, Commissioner Madrid, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. As Commissioner said, obviously after the pandemic, and as it's still going on, and youth activity starting to, and leagues starting to come back, CYSA has obviously reached out to us, and we were working on user agreements, and we're still trying to reach out to AYSO. And have not heard back from anyone that represents that organization, and we don't have any contact information for who potentially is on their board. We reached out to the state level, and they don't have contact information for that either. So we're going to give it another shot, trying to get in touch with them. If it doesn't come and they can't reestablish themselves, at that potential time, we would have just the one soccer league within our community, which based on numbers and being able to support the two, we may only need actually just the one soccer league at this particular time. So then we could potentially repurpose those fields, et cetera, that we may need. In regards to the policies, it's something that Mr. Hooper brought to the board for consideration to when it comes to donations, giving people a list of things and what those policies are going to look like when you make a donation, if you're going to donate a tree, if you're going to donate a bench, what that would look like, and so that we can have some uniformity across all of our parks, and so people would know what they can and cannot do when it comes to donations within our parks themselves. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. We also discussed Bark for Your Park grant, and we didn't get it. And I'll let Mrs. Claire Burrows say why we didn't get it.
Crying.
Because they didn't vote for it.
Because people didn't vote for it, that's why.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pass it over to Kelsey. Do you want to talk about it, Kelsey?
So it was, I don't remember exactly what we ranked, but the winning city was actually around 42,000 people in population. So it was definitely, and I think they received around 19,000 votes. We received 3,500, I believe. So it's definitely, if we choose to apply for it next year, then potentially, you know, it can get more reach and maybe we'll win.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you. And also status of bathrooms being open. Go ahead.
Certainly, so it's definitely something that we had discussed previously at a Parks and Rec Committee is, you know, us trying to leave our restrooms open when the parks are in use. We previously had a practice of locking those in the evening hours because we were concerned about vandalism. And so we had experienced vandalism in the past, and so we were hesitant of doing this. But we wanted to take a shot and see if leaving the facilities open during the evening hours, it would allow our citizens that are out utilizing those facilities after 5 o'clock, which in the summer months a lot of people do. And so we left them open, and we haven't seen the levels of vandalism that we thought we may see. And so we're going to continue on with that practice of leaving them open. Over the winter months, we're obviously going to have to lock them up. We have to winterize things due to the freezing temperatures and those conditions. But we were pleasantly surprised at the lack of vandalism that happened at those facilities. So I think it's a practice that we're going to continue on with.
Thank you. And then we had the EDA grant for zoo pond dredging. And Mr. Russell, you want to take that? Tell them about the pond dredging.
Absolutely. So the EPCOG is working with us on a grant to make improvements to our zoo. If any of you have been out there, you've noticed that within the interior of the zoo, we do have a pond. It's one of the original ponds that was with the zoo when it was assembled and started being put together, and has never had it been dredged. And so, of course, all those nutrients, it's visited a lot by wildlife, and they provide nutrients to the ecosystem of the pond as well. And so it's just unhealthy at this point from an ecosystem. And so we have the ability to apply for this grant to have the sediment removed, try and restore a healthy ecosystem in the pond. And then we're also looking at potentially adding some aerators into the facilities to where we get more air movement add more oxygen to the water itself, and then make some additional ADA improvements with the bridge that goes across to the pond itself. So that's something that we're going to continue to work with EPCOG on. There's not a definite timeline on when we have to submit that application, so we want to make sure that we have it the best we can. And then we'll bring that back to this commission for consideration at a future agenda item, because it does require a 20% match to go with it.
Thank you. We also have Pappy Thornton Museum, which Clovis and the county are working together, and Mrs. Burrows and Joyce Gates are taking care of this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner Madrid. We are working with Curry County. We have another meeting, I believe it is next week, to move forward with the Pappy Thornton Museum. We have looked at the extension office building, the old extension building at the Curry County Fairgrounds, and that's been identified as a place for the museum to house the agricultural artifacts and other items that the High Plains Historical Foundation would like to locate there. So the city and the county is partnering together on that. The city owns the various items, and the county owns the buildings, so we're moving forward with that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Burrows. Goodwin Trails Land Water Conservation Fund, LWCF, grant. Mrs. Claire Burrows.
Thank you again. We are moving ahead with that grant application to the Land Water Conservation Fund for the Goodwin Lake Trails. This is to redo the trail and then also to put in a parking lot which will come in off Arsenega with the new subdivision that's being built there, and then also some playground equipment and so on. Thank you.
Okay. Parks Projects and Infrastructure and Capital Improvements Plan, ICIP, Claire Burrows.
Yep, thank you again. So where the City Commission approved the Infrastructure and Capital Improvement Plan for the City of Clovis, and that of course includes various park projects for the next year. We have actually today received our signed agreements from the state of New Mexico for the fiscal year 2021, the 21 legislative session, which included parks, playground equipment. So we'll be applying for that, of course, for more funding for playground equipment in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Commissioner Paula, do you have anything to add to this?
No, you did a fine job, Commissioner Madrid.
Okay, Commissioner Elliott, you want to talk about the gun range?
Good job. I was excited about the Ned Houck shooting range. It's a beautiful facility, and it's really going to be a wonderful thing for the city of Clovis. But it was a great meeting. I appreciate you explaining all that. It was very good. Thank you.
Thank you. The next meeting, date and time is 5:30 Monday, October the 18th. Everybody's welcome. And then we have Trick for Trash cleanup at 8 a.m. Saturday, October the 9th. And do you want to speak on that Trick for Trash?
Certainly be happy to. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, Commissioner Madrid. Yes, this Saturday, starting at 8 o'clock at 500 Sycamore, which is Parks and Recreation, we will be having the annual Trek for Trash. I think we already have coming up on a couple of hundred people signed up for it, including Clovis Community College, who signed up 60 people?
55.
55 people. Wow. So thanks to Clovis Community College, Commissioner Rowley. So we're excited to have the event there. We have a special activity as well, which is to go and clean up Potter Park. We're going to do some painting of railings and buildings and so on. We're working with Jamal Williams, who is on the Parks and Recreation Committee, so he's helping to spearhead that. So, yep, please, in TV land, members of the audience, come and join us on Saturday morning. We'll be having breakfast there, and we'll provide a come-and-go lunch as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Burrows. And thank you. That's all I have.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Please? Claire, for Potter's Park, do they go to Potter's Park or do they start at Sycamore?
No, if they could start at the 500 Sycamore, then we can get them signed up and waivers signed and then go from there. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could ask a question as well.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, right away.
And I'll look at Mr. Howalt for this one. Did we ever determine if we could work in alleys with our truck for trash?
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, we can work in the alleys.
Good,
Absolutely.
great.
We're gonna let them work wherever they want.
Good to hear. Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, we have done that in the past where we've taken special groups into certain alleys and cleaned up that way. Thank you.
Very good. Well, Commissioner Madrid, thank you for that report. And as it happens, we didn't have other boards or committees that have met since the last meeting. So unless there's a report that one of you wants to give, all right, we will move on and we'll talk about future agenda items. Mr. Howalt, Ms. Burrows, are there future agenda items to mention?
The only item I have at the moment, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, is the Economic Development RFP. We will be bringing that to the Commission hopefully at the next Commission meeting. The Economic Incentive Board will actually meet next Wednesday at 7:30. It's not on the agenda right now, but we'll be sending that out because we now received the recommendation. So we'll be taking that to the EIB committee next Wednesday.
Outstanding. Thank you for that. Very good. Announcement of date, time, and place of city board and commission meetings. Upcoming meetings are Civil Aviation Board will meet at 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, October 12th, here in this room. Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Committee will meet at 5:30 p.m. Monday, October 18th, here in this room. Finance Committee, 2 p.m. Wednesday, October 20th, at the Assembly Room, or in the Assembly Room at Burt Cavanis City Government Center. This is a fun one that we all want to make note of. The Clifton Arrowhead Dedication, 3 p.m. Thursday, October 21st, in the Clovis-Carver Library. That will be a good one. I'm looking forward to seeing that collection. And then our next city commission meeting is at 5:15 p.m. on Thursday, October 21st, here in this room. Before we conclude, I wanted to once again say thank you to the applicants and congratulations, Mr. James Burns, on being appointed to the District 1 vacancy. City management will be in touch with you and talk to you about a swearing-in ceremony and all that involves. And we're looking forward to serving with you. And with that, we are adjourned.
I have one question.
Hi, I'm Marty.
For Mr. Huerta, is the EPCOR office going to be closed forever? I get a lot of calls on that.
So to answer that question is, I don't know at this point. We continue to track COVID, Delta variants, local guidelines, CDC guidelines, and then make the best decisions,
Okay.
Off of that. So,
Because I'm sure whenever you get
yes,
spotted, that's the first question they ask you.
absolutely. So, we continue to look at it, and, we're looking at it as a whole we've got operations in Texas, Arizona, Canada. So, they're looking at it across the board and trying to make kind of a uniform decision for all the operations. So
So we'll
hopefully,
blame
hopefully
COVID.
we'll have an answer soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, we're adjourned.
Wait.